Outside, darkness had fallen, but light still spilled out from the large building. Inside, Luke stood in the middle of a crowd, holding up 2 fingers and counting down. Suddenly, a voice made him turn. "Who the hell are you?" The woman with the scarred face advanced with a massive blade, gritting her teeth. "You snot-nosed brat. Are the cops fresh out of men?" Her subordinate behind her nervously tried to stop her. "Big sister, calm down." Marco went observed from the side, thinking, no matter how you look at it, he's just a kid. The scarred woman swung her blade down, yelling, "Kid, die." The blade was just centimeters from Luke's head, but he just casually swung his spear, and a powerful force swept across the scarred woman's neck, severing her head from her body. Her body, still in its attacking motion, flew backward. The men outside watched in horror. A level 6 martial artist, killed by this kid in an instant. This night is not normal. Something is very wrong. Luke stood there, holding his spear high, radiating a powerful aura, his expression nonchalant and indifferent. Marco spread his arms and cautiously warned his men, "He's not simple. Don't fight him one-on-one. The weapon in that kid's hand is likely a Grandmaster-level weapon. Everyone, attack him at once." Hearing this, Luke's expression turned serious. The other men, however, stared greedily at his weapon. So that's a Grandmaster-level weapon. A treasure like that could sell for billions. Without hesitation, they attacked Luke together, some with knives, some with swords, all rushing forward shouting, "Kid, you think you're hot stuff with a good weapon? Let me teach you a lesson." Luke's eyes narrowed, a clear sign of his anger. His eyes blazed with light as he unleashed several slashes with a speed imperceptible to the naked eye. The attackers were seen flailing in midair before crashing to the ground, stunning everyone present. Sweat poured down their faces, fear etched on their expressions. "A monster! He's a monster! This is insane!" A level 6 martial artist was insta-killed. Unbelievable. Luke's eyes were ice cold, his spear radiating a powerful, crimson flame. He spoke in a low voice, "The rest of you aren't coming? If you won't come to me, then I'll come to you." Luke used the breath of wind, and a gentle aura began to emanate from him. Then it exploded outward in a single, powerful burst, sending several nearby men flying. Cries of pain filled the air. The ghost-faced vulture watched in horror as a group of men were sent flying, blood splattering everywhere. "A Grandmaster!" he shrieked. "This brat is a half-step Grandmaster." He immediately turned to flee, but unfortunately, he was already in Luke's sights. Luke glanced back. As fast as lightning, he slammed his spear down and asked coldly, "Where do you think you're going?" Suddenly, the ghost-faced vulture's face began to smolder. He looked back. A ball of fire erupted in his hand. He turned his horrifically scarred face and laughed menacingly. "Who's running?" "He, Grandmaster my ass. Die for me." He roared as he threw the fireball at Luke, creating a massive explosion. The flames grew larger and larger. The ghost-faced vulture threw his head back and laughed maniacally. "Ha ha, not even dust will be left." Suddenly, a voice rang out. "You call this fire?" It instantly cut off his Kung Nyen's arrogance, replacing it with shocked disbelief. "What?" From deep within the raging inferno, a figure stood nonchalantly, his glowing eyes locked onto the vulture outside. Luke's hand emerged from the flames. He snapped his fingers and said, "Now this. I call fire." Instantly, the ghost-faced vulture was struck in the chest by a dark purple flame, sending him into a panic. The dark flame then erupted violently, consuming his body. His face contorted in agony as he screamed relentlessly. A moment later, the ghost-faced vulture was burned to a pile of ash. Marco watched this scene, breaking out in a cold sweat. His inner voice spoke again. A level 6 martial artist's bones are like steel. The melting point of steel is 2,750 degrees. It seems my fire is a bit stronger than his. Marco became even more terrified. Luke turned to him with a friendly smile, but his words were anything but. "How would you like to die?" he asked casually. "Outside, Marcus Fay and Monica Chu were observing stealthily. She whispered, "Be careful, don't get spotted." He replied, "Got it." When they entered, they exclaimed in shock, "What is this situation?" Before them was a pile of corpses lying on the ground in a bloody mess. Marcus knelt to inspect them, all killed with a single strike. "That kid's strength is no joke," he remarked. Monica replied irritably, "There were just a bunch of lackeys. Anyone could have done the same." But in her heart, she wondered, did that kid really charge in there? What then? Monica then entered, saying, Let's go. Let's go inside and see." "Okay." Marcus quickly followed. Before stepping through the door, she reminded him, "Be ready to fight at any moment." He replied with a cautious expression, "Understood." But when they got inside, they found an even larger pile of corpses. All of them had been dealt with. They scanned their surroundings. Marcus said in a bewildered tone, "This scene." Suddenly, the image of Marco when appeared before them in extreme agony. He was screaming. The two of them cried out in alarm. Marco won. His horrified face was sliced in half. Behind him, Luke swung his spear, his entire body exuding a powerful killing intent, his eyes glowing like a god of death amidst the splattering blood. This time, Monica was truly horrified. He was so easily defeated by this kid, she stammered. A month later, Luke's face had returned to normal. Seeing them, he asked, "You're here?" Then he immediately turned towards the door and said, nonchalantly, "Mission complete. Cleaning up the battlefield is your job. I'm heading back." After he left, both of them collapsed to the floor, their bodies going limp. Monica had to circulate her energy to calm herself down. But then, her expression twisted as she turned to her teammate. He killed the entire group of bandits by himself. Marcus, also in disbelief, added, This martial arts prospect, he's on another level. So scary. The Seven Saints Martial Academy has recruited a truly terrifying monster this time. Outside, the dim streetlights were on, and a yellow car was already parked and waiting. Luke was sitting inside with his eyes closed in meditation when his phone beeped. He opened it and was surprised by what he saw. On the screen was a message from Lindsay. "Luke, bad news. Where are you? Someone has come to challenge the Seven Saints Martial Academy's tower." Luke wondered to himself, challenge the tower? Arriving at the entrance of the Seven Saints Martial Academy, the taxi driver said, "We're here, Seven Saints Martial Academy. Take care, young man." Luke got out and replied politely, "Thank you." He looked down at the large suitcase in his hand and smiled. The rewards from this mission were quite substantial, he thought. Those bandits had abundant vitality and strong wills, not to mention their ferocity and cruelty. They were perfect for consecrating the dragon spear. I can almost hear the crimson star dragon spear breathing. Its soul nourishment has begun. Suddenly, Lindsay ran over from a distance, waving. "Saint." Approaching Luke, he said cheerfully, "Saint, you're finally back. How was it? Was the mission difficult? Exciting?" Luke replied with a smile, "It was fine. Nothing too hard, just killing a few bandits." Lindsay was shocked. Killing people? "Saint, you've killed someone." Seeing Lindsay's reaction, Luke thought worriedly, "That's right. Although Lindsay's martial arts strength is not weak, and he's a genius in his own right, he's still just an 18 or 19-year-old. The act of killing is probably a bit too brutal for him." He quickly tried to explain. They were all extremely vicious bandits. Before he could finish, Lindsay's expression turned to one of curiosity and excitement. "Holy crap, Saint. I can't believe you've killed someone. Does it feel good? Next time, I'm going to take a mission to catch criminals too. Kill a few for the thrill of it." Lindsay showed great enthusiasm for the idea. "We are all martial artists. We must punish evil and act on behalf of heaven. I wanted to be a righteous hero for a long time." Luke could only think helplessly, does he have a violent gene in his body? Suddenly, panicked voices were heard. Hey, did you hear? Shaolin failed the tower defense. Oh my God, we really can't defend the Martial Saint Tower this time. Quick, let's go see." Luke overheard and looked over. What's this about challenging the tower? Why are so many people running to the Marshall Saint Tower? Lindsay remembered the main issue. Oh, right. Saint, something huge happened while you were gone. Myron Hughes, rank 6 on the Seven Saints ranking, representing the 4th St. Marshall Academy, came to challenge our tower. Luke asked again, the Seven Saints ranking? What's that? Lindsay began to explain. The Seven Saints ranking is the upgraded version of the senior student rankings. The school's senior student rankings include all senior students from year 2 to year 4 who haven't graduated. It's considered the most reputable strength ranking at our Seven Saints Marshall Academy. The first and second ranks are Caden Tran and Shaolon. The Seven Saints ranking, as its name implies, combines the senior student rankings of all Seven St. Marshall Academies and forms a comprehensive ranking after a screening process. It's the most prestigious ranking. Everyone on this list is a true prodigy, the top geniuses of the younger generation. Then he said dejectedly, but it seems our Seven Saints Marshall Academy's strength is not that great. There isn't a single person in the top 10 of the Seven Saints ranking. Caden Tran, who is number 1 on our senior list, is only ranked 13th. We probably can't hold the tower. The Seven Saints Marshall Academy is going to become a laughingstock this time. For a whole year, we won't even have the privilege of entering the Marshall Saint Tower. We'll have to be like students from other schools and outside martial artists, first applying for approval and then waiting in line for at least half a year, Lindsay lamented, not noticing that Luke's face had already darkened. Veins popped on his forehead from anger. He turned and gritted his teeth. What did you say? Wait in line for at least half a year. He immediately leaped away. Nurture my ass. Defend the tower? Leave it to me. Leaving Lindsay behind, still confused. Ah! Then his face lit up with joy. What? What did Saint just say? He's going to defend the tower? Damn! Now this is a big deal. At the Seven Saints Tower, a massive crowd had gathered. Everyone there was cursing in anger. Damn it! Are we really going to be trampled by the 4th St. Marshall Academy? This is so humiliating. Are we really going to have to compete for spots with students from other schools from now on? Suddenly, a door was pushed open. Hey, someone's coming out. It's Caden Tran. Caden Tran failed. A young man emerged, clutching his head in pain and anger. A girl rushed to support him, worried. The crowd outside grew even more frantic. We're screwed. Even Caden Tran, the number 1 on the senior list, failed. Who can possibly stand against that Myron Hughes guy? Another girl was equally panicked. If Myron Hughes clears one more floor, he'll break Caden Tran's record. On the Marshall Academy Tower's power ranking board, for the martial arts year 315 National Top 50, the order showed number 1 Myron Hughes, floor 21, in progress. Number 2 Caden Tran, floor 20, finished, followed by other contestants who had finished. The crowd watched anxiously. The tower defense has failed. Caden Tran gritted his teeth in anger, looking up. Damn it, he thought. As a student of the Seven Saints Marshall Academy, I've been here for 4 years. I'm the most familiar with our tower, but even so, I still couldn't beat that Myron Hughes guy. Is the gap in our strength really that big? Damn it, he thought, clenching his jaw. The 2 guys from the 4th St. Marshall Academy, one with blonde hair and one with red, started to sneer. Huh, the 7th St. Marshall Academy has completely lost face this time. They act so arrogant usually, but when they run into someone stronger, they just look pathetic. Huh, isn't it true? Huh, who pushed me? Suddenly, a powerful aura appeared behind the 2 of them. They were forcibly pushed aside along with everyone else nearby. Hey, what's going on? What is this? Spiritual power. They were completely bewildered. The dense crowd parted, making way for Luke Saint. He walked forward calmly. Seeing him, the crowd started murmuring again. It's Luke Saint, the number 1 on the freshman list. This year's top martial arts prospect. The violent freshman who beat up a teacher on the first day. He's a spiritual master too? And what's he doing here? Is he going to defend the tower? Those guys were initially startled, but then they started to mock him. Ha, you guys at the 7th St. Marshall Academy are really something. The number one senior couldn't hold out, and now you're pinning your hopes on a freshman. That's hilarious. The number one freshman challenging the number 6 on the Seven Saints ranking? He's got 4 to 5 years less training time than you guys. Does he think he's worthy of competing? Ha ha. But Luke paid them no mind, calmly walking up to the door. He asked the girl guarding the door, "I don't need to wait in line to enter the tower now, right?" The girl was surprised to see him. "Oh, why is it you? I remember you're still a freshman. You haven't even entered the tower before. Why are they letting you defend it?" Then she became dejected. "Sigh, fine. You don't need a queue now. The others aren't coming. When you get out, remember to tell people to disperse. That Myron Hughes guy's already broken our record." As she spoke, she pressed the button to open the door. As Luke stepped through the door, he smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry. I alone am enough." But voices of disbelief rang out behind him. Outside, a short-haired girl in red urgently asked a group of people running towards her, "How is it? Did you find him?" A girl in yellow replied anxiously, "I asked. He's out on an AA rank mission." The girl in red was shocked. "What? Of all the times?" She buried her face in her hands. "It's over. Without him, the 7th St. Martial Academy is sure to lose this time." A girl with orange hair behind her asked, "Who is this person you're looking for? You make him sound so powerful." The girl in red lowered her head and sighed. "Who it is doesn't matter anymore. He's not at school. There's no chance to prove it." The orange-haired girl said, so mysterious. "Right now, everyone who can is going to defend the tower. Even that first year, Luke Saint just went in. I guess we're desperate." Hearing this, the girl in red was startled. She quickly grabbed her friend's shoulders and asked, "What did you say?" "Luke Saint, the first year, went into the tower." Her friend pointed up at the ranking board. Yes, he just went in. Look, his name is up there. Number 20, Luke Saint, floor 1, in progress." Seeing this, the girl in red cheered. Oh, it's true." She was incredibly excited. "This is great. We're definitely going to win this time." Her friends behind her shared her excitement. The orange-haired girl was a bit speechless. "Why are you so happy? Isn't Luke Saint just a slightly stronger than average number 1 freshman?" The red-haired girl wiped away tears of joy. "You don't understand. Maybe this is a kind of big sister fan pride." Inside, Luke was calmly waiting to be transported to his position. The door opened again. Before him was a spacious room with only a chair and a table. On the table was a helmet. This was the Marshall Saint Tower. He picked up the helmet. A note on it read, "Put on in one go. Please replace it yourself. The trial will begin immediately upon wearing." He felt a bit speechless. This is so much like Ready Player One. He quickly lay down on the chair and put on the helmet. A moment later, Luke opened his eyes. The helmet was gone. He looked around the space, a bit disoriented. He then looked down at his transforming hands and thought, although there are some differences, the mechanics are exactly the same as the Dreamscape world. He clenched his fist. If that's the case, I haven't been breaking the Marshall Saint Tower's records every day for nothing. I feel sorry for all the zombies I've sent packing in the Dreamscape over the past year. I can't fight zombies here, can I? He glanced to one side, and a zombie had already appeared. His expression became calmer. Right, the opponent in the Marshall Saint Tower is singular. Is this the youthful form of Marshall Saint Tanjongyu? Luke wondered. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something. Marshall Saint Tanjongyu is gradually growing larger. Then, Marshall Saint Tanjongyu moved his feet. He leaped forward, attacking Luke's chest with blinding speed. Luke stood silent for a long moment before the Marshall Saint's attack. Then, a powerful energy burst from him, sending Marshall Saint Tanjongyu flying. Your strength is around a level 2 martial artist, he assessed. Marshall Saint Tanjongyu gritted his teeth in anger. Luke said, your counterattack was repelled by my inner energy. I'm not a very kind person. If a Marshall Saint hits me, I'll definitely hit back. As he spoke, he excitedly threw a powerful punch, shattering the image of Marshall Saint Tanjongyu into countless small pieces. It gradually dissipated, leaving only a face and a reaching hand. Luke sensed that something wasn't right. Hmm. A stream of energy burst from his body and flew into the distance, where it began to coalesce again. It reformed into martial Saint Tanjongyu. Luke analyzed. It absorbs my spiritual power and then transforms into a new Tanjongyu? All right. He looked a bit more mature. So that's how it is. The difficulty will gradually increase. Martial Saint Tanjongyu quickly zipped behind Luke and threw a punch, but Luke instantly blocked it with his hand. Thanks to you, I've understood the basic principles of the Martial Saint Tower, he said. Then Luke drew back his leg. He delivered a powerful kick that shattered the illusion. But surprisingly, spiritual power flowed out from his body again. The two streams of spiritual power intertwined and flew into the distance. It immediately condensed into another martial Saint Tanjongyu. Luke understood the problem. TSK. Every time I defeat an opponent, not only do I get no feedback, but it also takes my spiritual power. I previously thought the Martial Saint Tower trial might be related to spiritual power and will, but I never understood how. The tower provides spiritual trials for so many people year-round. Even a martial saint should have been depleted long ago. It turns out it's maintained through this kind of fee collection system. Each stage absorbs a little, then activates the martial saints to generate an opponent. It's ingenious. It even absorbs a larger amount to generate the opponent, thereby continuously strengthening the martial saint's will. After a moment of analysis, he exclaimed happily, I think I understand why the student quality of the 7th Saint Martial Academy is not as good as the other 6. The Martial Saint Towers of the other 6 schools were built much earlier than the 7th's. Naturally, the snowball of their martial saints is larger and stronger. Tanjongyu is the founder of the 7th Saint Martial Academy, and also the only living martial Dao saint among the 7 schools. He manages all affairs of the 7 schools, and his elbow was gradually nearing the face of Martial Saint Tanjongyu. He struck with a powerful blow, causing the illusion to gradually shatter again. If I break the record of the Martial Saint Tower, I'll have a chance to meet him and receive his inheritance. He continued with a smile. If my analysis of the Martial Saint Tower is correct, then the origin of the dreamscape is based on the same principle. The dreamscape is very likely generated based on the will of one, or perhaps many, powerful martial artists. Moreover, the dreamscape is far more advanced than the Martial Saint Tower. The number of powerful martial artists 10,000 years in the future is immense. Their combined will could directly construct a spiritual world. It's not impossible. At this time, he was still continuously blasting away small pieces of the martial saint, and his spiritual power flowed out again, and the martial saint condensed once more. As he fought, he calculated, he started using a blade now. This seems to be Tanjongyu in his 20s in college. His strength is around level 5. This time, it's Blade Down Novice. Luke once again punched the martial saint into pieces. And this time, it's a breakthrough to level 6. He relentlessly threw another punch. Every version of Tanjongyu that fell to Luke couldn't withstand more than a single move. At this point, a large amount of spiritual power was being continuously drained from his body. This is Tanjongyu in his 30s, at least peak level 6, proficient in the Tao of the Blade. Back then, he was known as the #1 under the Grandmaster realm among his peers. His spiritual power had already taken form. Excellent, excellent. Luke looked down at his hands with satisfaction. They say Martial Saint Tanjongyu was a late bloomer, only showing his saintly potential when he was about to enter the Grandmaster realm. Let me see just how strong the so-called #1 under the Grandmaster realm really is. He then seriously raised his hand, his whole body emitting a unique aura. We're both level 6. If I use my spear, it'd be bullying him. So I'll fight him barehanded. Outside, on the power ranking board of the Martial Saint Tower for the Martial Arts Year 315 National Top 50, it showed Myron Hughes in progress, 4th Saint Martial Academy. Caden Tran finished 7th Saint Martial Academy. Xiaolon finished 7th Saint Martial Academy. He passed. He passed. Panicked voices cried out. The girl in red also looked up in alarm. Myron Hughes passed floor 22. We're screwed. Our previous best record was floor 22. If Myron Hughes passes one more floor, we're done for. Please, gods, don't let him pass. The girl next to her was just as worried. Caden Tran looked down at his hands in turmoil. A huge disgrace. My reputation is ruined, he muttered, his body trembling. I only reached floor 30. Is this the strength of the Seven Saints ranking? Then Caden Tran couldn't hold it in anymore and grabbed his hair in frustration. Damn it. The girl next to him reassured him. Don't worry. Myron Hughes isn't that strong. Floor 22 is a threshold. A peak level 6 with blade down novice, Marshall St. Tan, can't be defeated so easily. But Caden Tran was still trembling, punching his chest to keep himself calm. The girl continued, Myron Hughes, he can't. He probably can't do it. Caden Tran asked, trembling, What if he makes it? What if Myron Hughes passes? Wouldn't that make me the disgrace of the 7th St. Marshall Academy? Suddenly, a surprised voice shouted, So fast. Luke Saint's tower climbing speed is incredibly fast. The fangirl cheered with joy. It's so fast. He's already at 11, now 12. While we were talking, he jumped to floor 15. Oh, he's at floor 21. Only one floor behind Myron Hughes. The girl next to her was equally stunned, covering her mouth with her hand. The others chimed in. Luke Saint is ranked second now. He even surpassed Caden Tran. Caden Tran clenched his fists, trembling in shock. What kind of speed is this? Inside, Myron Hughes was still gritting his teeth, using all his strength to fight back against Marshall St. Tanjongyu. But Luke was just casually punching with a satisfied smile. The guys who had mocked Luke earlier started to make accusations, pointing at the power ranking board. Damn, you guys at the 7th St. Marshall Academy are cheating, aren't you? You're even faking the tower results. Are you that afraid of losing face? Meanwhile, the crowd ignored them, staring up in utter shock. Caden Tran was speechless at the situation. This speed of clearing the tower is just unbelievable. The girl guarding the door finally scoffed at the accusers. The core of the Marshall Saint Tower is the will of a Marshall Saint. Are you saying a Marshall Saint is cheating for him? The accuser was silenced, but still tried to argue. I am not blaming the Marshall Saint. But this result is obviously fake, isn't it? The girl was about to retort, but suddenly she gasped in astonishment. Oh my God, this is a new historical record. Luke Saint had now surpassed everyone, taking the number 1 spot, and was currently on floor 25. The orange-haired girl said in disbelief. What kind of strength does this Luke Saint have? It's unbelievable. The fangirl was ecstatic. I knew it. I knew this would happen. This is Luke Saint. Lindsay had also joined the crowd, staring up in shock. Damn, Saint, how can you be this godly? Inside, Luke was still focused on the fight, his body radiating the unique fire of his power. Marshall St. Tanjongyu was behind him, but he confidently raised his flaming fist. A moment later, Marshall St. Tanjongyu shattered into pieces again. Luke turned around, slightly tired. Phew, as expected of the man called the number 1 under the Grandmaster realm back then. If this was me from over a week ago, before I mastered muscle control in the cold weapons training room, I probably wouldn't have been able to dominate like this. Truly worthy of the name Marshall Saint. He's quite something. Then, his spiritual power once again flowed out. This time, it rushed out with much more force than before. Luke had to clutch his head in pain. He was sweating and said with discomfort, TSK, the fee for the next stage is a bit too steep. For other students, just having their spiritual power drained by this stage would be enough to completely exhaust them. So, the next one to take the stage is probably... At this moment, Marshall St. Tanjongyu had transformed into an old man with a white beard and mustache. Grandmaster realm, Tanjongyu. A powerful, dark aura emanated from Grandmaster Tanjongyu, forcing Luke to take several steps back. He was suppressed by the pressure and thought in alarm. This Grandmaster's Tao is so strong. Marshal Saint Tanjong entered the Grandmaster realm at 42, and in that same month, he fought 8 Grandmasters consecutively, winning 7 and drawing 1. He quickly regained his composure, and a familiar but more powerful flame erupted from his body, with a faint image of phoenixes within it. Very good. Let's see what you've got. Grandmaster Tanjong had now drawn his sword. Luke spoke. Will your blade cut through my burning sun, or will I break you first? He unleashed all his power, burning to the absolute limit. He shot forward like a brilliant streak of light towards the Grandmaster. Today, I will use my level 6 body and my level 7 Grandmaster's Tao to fight a true Grandmaster who possessed level 9 potential. Luke's eyes blazed as he threw a punch. Fight! Suddenly, Grandmaster Tanjong swung his sword. The image of the descending blade was seared into his eyes. The sword strike was so powerful that it created cracks on the hard floor. It created a huge trench along the path of the sword, releasing a large cloud of dust. As the dust settled, Luke was revealed, standing with his feet on either side of the trench, his hand held out to block. His face was filled with terror as he thought, what a terrifying slash. My level 4 inner energy and the everlasting flame were shattered like tofu in a single blow. It was like I was split in two in an instant. Then, his expression quickly turned to excitement. This is exactly what I wanted, an opponent this strong. If he could crush me, it would be such a thrill. Luke then leaped up. Under the pressure of life and death, my martial arts can progress even further. I'm just one step away from the second state of the path of 10 perfections. As his feet touched the ground, it created a massive shockwave. My mastery of movement techniques is also one step closer. Then his eyes blazed again, and he used Great Sun Charge to dash forward. Grandmaster Tanjong was still swinging his sword, powerful auras emanating with his every move. His eyes also began to glow, and then he brought the sword down. Streaks of lightning seemed to flash from Grandmaster Tanjong's body and his sword strikes. Despite the descending sword strikes, Luke charged forward. A surge of power began to gather in his hand. Secret technique of the stellar body tempering art, condensing inner energy, gathering it to one point like a hand grasping a star, a finger eclipsing the sun, controlling the very stars. Then, the power of a star was clenched in his fist, ready to be unleashed. A silent void filled with twinkling constellations appeared, 10 suns raining the sky. In the vice principal's office, True Tai Im was reading a document, his lips pursed in a grim expression. 8 level 6 martial artists, including 2 at peak level, and even an expert with an elemental control talent. All of them were wiped out by Luke Saint alone with his spear, and it was easy a one-sided slaughter. The AA rank mission has been upgraded to AAA rank. The chief of the Edgewater City Police Department personally wrote a thank you letter of nearly 10,000 words. After a moment of shock, True Time leaned back in his chair and sighed. Phew, this kid. I thought he would lay low for a while before making a name for himself. I never expected him to give me such a big surprise so soon. Unparalleled strategy, undefeated against his peers, exactly like the martial Saint Lord in his youth. With such talent and strength, he's already worthy of the martial Saint Lord's attention. I must report this immediately. He reached for his phone, but his secretary burst in frantically. Vice Principal. The secretary was breathless. The Marshal Saint Tower. There's an emergency at the Marshal Saint Tower. True Time said wearily. What are you panicking about? Is it the result of the tower defense? The tower challenge is a rule set by the Marshal Saint himself to encourage competition. If we lost, then just inform the people from the 4th Saint Martial Academy. I'm not showing up. The secretary asked in surprise. What does the 4th Saint Martial Academy have to do with this? It's Luke Saint. Luke Saint broke the tower climbing record of our 7th Marshal Saint Tower. He's already reached floor 26. Hearing this, True Tai-im was extremely agitated. He immediately launched himself out of his chair and through the window, shattering the glass. The secretary quickly covered her face and cried out, "Vice! Vice Principal!" Not just him, but 4 other figures also shot out from the tall buildings. The students below cried out in alarm. Damn, what a terrifying pressure. Those are grandmasters. It's the school's vice principals. What's going on? True Tai-im and the other vice principals were all rushing at top speed. He was sweating profusely, but couldn't help but smile excitedly. Luke Saint, the first figure, landed, to the astonishment of the crowd. It was True Tai-im. He adjusted his tie. The students shouted, "Vice Principal True." Following him, the other figures also landed. They were, in order, a chubby old man with a beard, a person in a hooded robe whose face was hidden, and a woman in red. It's not just Vice Principal True, but the other vice principals are here too. On the Marshall St. Towers Power Ranking Board for Martial Arts Year 315 National Top 50, Luke Saint was shown as in progress for the 7th Saint Martial Academy. A voice exclaimed, "This!" All 4 vice principals were sweating, completely shocked. True Time spoke. "Just now, I heard Luke Saint had reached floor 26 and rushed here without a second's hesitation. And yet, he's already climbed another floor." The bearded vice principal said grimly. "The Martial Saint once said that anyone under 30 who can break through floor 23 must be brought to see him." The robed vice principal added, "Anyone who can break through floor 24 will receive his guidance for 3 days." The sole female vice principal continued, "And anyone who can break through floor 25 will be accepted as his disciple and receive his inheritance." This Luke Saint has already reached floor 27. True Tai-im exclaimed as dark energy pulsed from the tower. True Tai-im gave an order. "After this is over, we will report to the Lord together." Understood. The students there were even more bewildered. Damn, that Luke Saint could be directly accepted as a disciple by the Martial Saint. The record of the Martial Saint Tower was shattered by him. It'll probably be another 50 years before anyone can set a new record. So scary. Luke Saint is probably the strongest student in the history of the 7th Saint Martial Academy. An image of Luke Saint with a cold expression and glowing eyes appeared. Lindsay corrected the crowd. The strongest freshman, to be exact. He then looked towards the tower and exclaimed, "Saint, you're so amazing. Amazing doesn't even begin to describe it." Lindsay clasped his hands, his eyes sparkling with admiration. "For the rest of my life, I can only look up to Saint." His 2 friends next to him were speechless. One of the students bit his nails in disbelief. This Luke Saint has never been this incredible. There were no signs at all. Where did he suddenly come from? This caught the fangirl's attention. She then showed her phone screen to the student. On the screen were 3 hot topics. First, passing stage 5 of the cold weapons training room. What is the true strength of the strongest freshman, Luke Saint? Second, spearmanship instructor's evaluation of Luke Saint. His spearmanship is beyond the insight realm. Third, shocking, A-rank mission, unprecedented in history, completed by Luke Saint alone. Teammates were present at the scene. The fangirl said proudly, I've been posting about Luke Saint's strength for a while now. He passed stage 5 of the training room, but no one believed me." The student was still staring at the news with a horrified expression. The student's face was drenched in sweat, and he shrunk back. It seems Luke Saint's power always leaves a trail. An enormous image of Luke Saint stood imposingly, while he was as small as a mosquito. I was truly blind, unable to see Mount Tai. I didn't even know someone this strong existed. Inside the tower, sword energy flashed. A clash of martial arts, a collision of wills. This is a rare opportunity for tempering. Luke was now bleeding from his eyes and nose, his body covered in wounds, but he persisted. "For my Grandmaster Dao." With a determined look, he declared, "You are very strong." Tan Zhongyu remained silent, his white eyes staring at him. Then his body suddenly began to dissolve. Luke continued, "But I'm stronger. His voice boomed with power, and light radiated from him, filling the massive crack that had just been created. Tan Zhongyu had completely faded into thin air. Luke sat down in a cross-legged position and began to meditate to recover. A moment later, his body was free of scratches, the bleeding had stopped, and he let out a sigh of relief. Looking at the spiritual energy radiating from his hands, Luke smiled with satisfaction. My great sun visualization is about to reach perfection. Perhaps after one more life and death battle, it will be fully formed. At that point, I can officially attack the level 7 Grandmaster realm. But at that moment, a stream of spiritual energy shot down, making the ground tremble. New cracks appeared. Luke was now surrounded by countless streams of power, and he was completely stunned. The streams of spiritual energy shot upwards, converging into a ball of light above Luke's head. A moment later, from within the light, emerged Tan Zhongyu, the great Grandmaster. His white eyes stared down solemnly. Luke gave an excited smile. This time, it didn't absorb my spiritual power. It seems the power the Martial Saint Tower has been accumulating was for this very moment. He stomped his foot hard, releasing the immense pressure he had been building up, and said with anticipation, "Next is the true test of my limits." His eyes glowed as he charged forward. "Come on, let the final feast begin." The power ranking board now showed Luke Saint at the top, followed by Myron Hughes. The people outside looked up at the board in utter shock. Even True Tai-Im was sweating, watching without blinking. He turned to look at the other vice principals, and their faces were also filled with bewilderment. And then, the inevitable happened. The power ranking board displayed a new record. Number 1 Luke Saint, 28 floors completed. This left True Tai-Im in a state of shock, utterly speechless. The other students, however, were cheering wildly. "Luke's coming out. Let's go witness a historic moment." Their faces were filled with eager anticipation. A figure emerged from the darkness. Myron Hughes walked out and was surprised to see so many people. Damn, he thought. When did so many people get here? They must all be in awe of my achievements, right? Ha! Myron Hughes thought, laughing to himself. He imagined a girl coming up to him to confess. "Senior Myron, please, go out with me." And he would happily reply, "Of course." The crowd around them would applaud and cheer. What a perfect scenario. In reality, Myron Hughes was drooling and giggling to himself. "Let's go on a date." The other girls saw his expression and grimaced in disgust, whispering to each other, "His smile is so creepy. Yeah, he looks so scary." Meanwhile, Myron Hughes was still lost in his own world, giggling. Just then, Luke Saint walked out and said politely, "Excuse me, please make way." His hand grabbed Myron Hughes' arm and pushed him aside, but he accidentally sent him spinning, much to his confusion. Myron Hughes fell to the ground. Luke said sorry. At that moment, everyone outside was waving and cheering for him. Myron Hughes glared angrily and shouted, "You!" Luke turned back and said calmly, "You were blocking my way." Luke pushed him aside and said, "Move, don't block the way." This made Myron Hughes even angrier, and he gritted his teeth, hissing, "Damn." He then leaped up, swinging his fist and roaring, "I'm blocking your damn way. You son of a bitch, do you know who you're talking to?" Luke remained silent. A second later, a massive explosion from the impact sent everyone scrambling for cover. As the dust settled, a pair of legs was seen dangling in midair. Luke was now casually holding Myron Hughes by the neck, lifting him up despite being much smaller. He asked coldly, "You were blocking the way, and now you're acting like a thug?" Myron Hughes, being choked, was both in pain and terrified, sweating profusely. His eyes bulged, and drool trickled from his mouth, unable to speak a word. Luke asked again, "And who are you?" He then coldly swung his arm, and a wave of power followed. It sent Myron Hughes flying, landing face first on the ground. Myron Hughes's underlings cried out in alarm, "Boss! Senior Myron! Boss, are you okay?" They rushed over to check on their boss, who was still face down on the ground. Boss, wake up. The others there stared at Luke with utter astonishment. Oh my God. They watched Luke walk out majestically, all sharing the same thought. Are we witnessing the birth of a new legend right here? As he was walking out coolly, Luke was startled by Lindsay's excitement. Ah, did you see that? That's the power of Saint. From now on, the 7th Saint Martial Academy will enter an era that belongs to Luke Saint. Ha ha ha. The female fans also cheered along. That's right. Luke Saint, the strongest in history. So amazing. You are the savior of the 7th Saint Martial Academy. Spurred on by the enthusiastic encouragement, everyone started shouting their feelings. Invincible. Who cares about Myron Hughes from the 7 Saints ranking? He's not good enough. Some even felt proud to have been beaten by Luke and cheered. I was beaten by Luke Saint before. I'm just like Myron Hughes. I was beaten by Luke Saint too. Luke stood amidst the cheers of the crowd, closed his eyes, and thought with satisfaction. Being recognized by everyone is probably one of the driving forces of the martial path, isn't it? Caden Tran had now shed the burden in his heart and breathed a sigh of relief, saying happily, Phew, what senior rankings, what 7 Saints rankings. I'm afraid they can't contain a great Buddha like Luke Saint. True Time turned to look at the vibrant young people behind him and said with satisfaction, the elegant style of youth, watching the flowers of Chang'an from a fine steed. Let them enjoy this moment. Outside, a young man in a blue shirt observed the crowd and exclaimed in shock, Damn, I can't believe I ran into something this big just by coming here. The record of the 7 Saints Martial Academy's tower was broken by a first-year freshman. He then turned to Diana Yang and said, Junior sister Diana Yang, let's go find Annie's classmate. Let's meet up quickly and then head back. The people here are acting like they're on drugs. It's too dangerous. We shouldn't stay long. Surprisingly, Diana Yang's cheeks were flushed, her eyes dreamy as she looked ahead. No need, she replied. I've already found him. Her delicate brows furrowed as she fell silent, lost in thought. She then turned to leave. The blonde-haired guy frantically looked around and pointed. You found him? Don't tell me the person you were looking for is that Luke Saint. I'm not saying this, but I didn't expect you to have such a vain side, he teased. Diana Yang's face darkened, and she said with low self-esteem, You're not wrong. He's really too dazzling. I was too full of myself. The blonde-haired guy gave a sinister smile and grabbed her hand. Sigh, don't be angry, junior sister Diana Yang. That's not what I meant. I believe you, okay? Diana angrily pulled her hand away and shouted, Let go. Senior, I appreciate you bringing me here to find someone, but please watch your words and actions. The blonde guy still grinned sleazily. Now, why do you say that? Suddenly, from behind him, a scary face questioned, Are you deaf? She told you to let go, didn't you hear? It was Lindsay who grabbed the blonde guy's head, making him cry out. Damn it. You. What are you doing? It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Lindsay gave a sinister laugh. Hee hee. You dare to lay a hand on Saint's girl. You tell me what I want to do. He started beating the guy up like a demon, making him scream for mercy. Ow, ow. Spare me. Spare me. Fatty bro, I was wrong. A moment later, the blonde guy was beaten to a pulp on the ground, with bruises all over. Lindsay looked at his own fist, confused. Strange. We're both hitting people. Why can't I produce the same dominant effect as Saint? He then turned to Diana Yang and said with a smile, Your classmate Diana Yang, right? Saint told me to come and tell you to wait a bit. We'll have a meal together later. Diana was a bit flustered and asked, You're Luke Saint's friend? Lindsay proudly replied, Saint is my boss. He just noticed you. He's, well, you know, it's not easy for him to get away. I'll take Saint's girl for a walk around first, okay? Diana said. Diana blushed and quickly explained, We're not in that kind of relationship. The blonde guy, still lying on the ground, thought worriedly, Luke Saint really is Diana's classmate. I'm screwed. Scene changed to the next day. Luke was now sitting in the principal's office, talking to True Time. True Time said cheerfully. It's truly astonishing. Student Luke Saint, on your first time in the Marshall Saint Tower, you broke the historical record. A promising young man indeed. Huh. This situation is very special. The specific reward will have to wait for the Marshall Saint Lord arrangements. Moreover, after you broke the record of the Marshall Saint Tower, your credit point reward will also be distributed soon. Hearing about the reward, Luke asked in surprise, there are credit point rewards for clearing the tower? True Time explained, you didn't know? For any school's Marshall Saint Tower, whoever sets a new record will receive that school's credit point reward. As he said this, he seemed to realize something and exclaimed in alarm, wait, don't tell me you want to? Luke calmly replied, yes. If possible, I want to graduate early. True Time jumped up, agitated. This? He then let out a long, helpless sigh. Phew, I understand. He turned to the window and waved his hand. You could go back for now. I'll inform you if there's any news. Luke quickly stood up and replied, yes, sir. As Luke stepped out the door, True Time approached his desk and picked up the phone. Calling someone, he said, hello, it's me. True Time hesitated before saying to the person on the other end, I think we should wait a bit longer. The other end was silent for a moment before asking, why? True Time turned back to watch someone's retreating figure and explained, I feel that Luke Saint's performance. Someone's footsteps were strong and powerful. True Time continued, has only just begun. As Luke walked away, a powerful aura emanated from him. At that moment, on the hot search board of the 7th St. Marshall Academy's campus forum, the era of Luke Saint has arrived. Prepare to feel the terror of being dominated by Luke Saint. Badass video clips of Luke Saint is a fresh graduate suitable for working at a martial arts gym. Should I choose the front lines when enlisting in the military district? Asterisk the calico cat and the short-haired white dog from the South Campus gym have been neutered, are in good health, have good personalities, and can be cuddled and petted. Looking for owners online, first come, first served, asterisk. Asterisk the strongest freshman in the history of the 7th St. Marshall Academy. Glory to the 7th St. Marshall Academy, asterisk. Asterisk does Kenji, the number 1 on the 7 Saints ranking, have enough strength for Luke Saint to beat with one hand? Let's analyze it together. Asterisk. Asterisk all images of Luke Saint's moves, super high-definition screenshots are mine. I will take them all. Ability has never been a right to do as one pleases. Running away is not my way of doing things, right? Asterisk. Asterisk, how far is Luke Saint from becoming a Grandmaster? The first Grandmaster in history born in a school. Asterisk. From today onwards, our 7th St. Marshall Academy can finally hold our heads high. We don't have to feel inferior to students from other schools anymore. Luke Saint is too amazing, super unreal, so magical. I will never forget this day for the rest of my life. Brothers, sound the horn for a counterattack. Tomorrow, we'll go challenge other schools' towers. Does anyone have photos or videos of Luke Saint beating Myron Hughes? Please, I want to print them out and paste them on my wall. Lin Fan, tell him that all the senior girls in the 2nd year want to have as babies to create the most talented new generation. Luke's eyes widened in horror as he read the news. He then took a sip of water and said helplessly, as expected of female martial arts students, they're really bold in their actions. He looked up at Diana Young and said, today at the scene was a bit of a joke. I didn't expect so many people to be there. Diana blushed and waved her hands in denial. It's okay. You're a busy person, and your current achievements are really dazzling. Her gaze then softened, and she asked with some hesitation, can I still come and find you in the future? Luke asked, a little confused, why? Is there something wrong? He then said, that was just a small matter, and a push with absolutely no resistance is really boring. As he spoke, Luke looked out the window. A moment later, he turned back and smiled. I've got it. At the 4th St. Marshall Academy's cafeteria, Myron Hughes was continuously pointing at dishes, making the chef frantic. I want this, and this too. A moment later, he set down an enormous tray of food on the table. Myron Hughes sat down and focused on eating. A few students saw him, and started whispering. That's Myron Hughes. I heard he failed to challenge the 7th St. Martial Academy's tower and came back with a dark face. No way. He was defeated by a freshman from the 7th Saint who just enrolled? And he was flipped over like a chicken? For real? A freshman is that strong? Myron Hughes isn't weak, is he? A few others came over to join in the gossip and mock Myron Hughes. Sigh, who knows how strong he really is? He's all talk and no show. The important thing is he was beaten by a freshman, completely disgracing the 4th St. Martial Academy. A failed show-off just becomes a fool. I'm speechless. Myron Hughes had also heard their words. The chopsticks in his hand snapped. Myron Hughes was trembling with anger as he ate, but he tried to calm himself down. Calm down, stay calm. Don't let the words of those dogs ruin my meal. The newcomer, oblivious, continued to drone on, and I heard Myron Hughes was so scared by that freshman that he fainted on the spot and even wet himself. Ha ha, he wet his pants. Ha ha. The others who heard this also burst out laughing. Then the food tray was knocked over. A powerful hand grabbed the heckler by the neck. Myron Hughes had reached his breaking point. He got close to the guy's face and roared, I didn't piss my pants. I didn't. I'll say it again. Myron Hughes emphasized each word, making the guy cry in fear. I didn't piss my pants. The people who had just been laughing along witnessed this and broke out in a cold sweat. Suddenly, a voice called out, Myron Hughes. Myron Hughes, in a rage, shouted back, You're next if you say one more word. The voice called out again, Myron Hughes. Unable to take it anymore, he turned around and threw a punch. Which son of a bitch is it? Now, a fair-skinned hand reached out and effortlessly blocked his punch. Myron Hughes immediately broke out in a cold sweat. You? Luke asked coldly. Myron Hughes, have you always been this rude? This is the second time now. He then put an arm around Myron Hughes' shoulder and said, I'm coming to your school to challenge the tower. Just letting you know. Any objections? Myron Hughes could only grin and shake his head vigorously. Luke then tossed Myron Hughes into the air and said, Good that there are no objections. Myron Hughes sat trembling, holding his head in fear. The people nearby were confused. No way. Myron Hughes is not weak at all. No matter what, he's number 1 on the senior list and 6th on the 7th Saints ranking. Who is that guy? To make Myron Hughes so scared. Myron Hughes, still in panic, held his head and stammered, He's Luke Saint. The crowd gasped, Huh? What did you say? He's Luke Saint. Quick, call for backup. Luke Saint from the 7th St. Martial Academy is here to challenge the tower. Get the top 10 here quick. Another person shouted. Call for what? Myron Hughes is a stammering wreck. He's like a scared quail right now, not even daring to make a peep. At that moment, a voice rang out. Myron Hughes was beaten into a fool, but that doesn't mean we are too. I also want to see the freshman who crushed Myron Hughes. A man and a woman appeared. The man was powerfully built and carried a massive, intimidating blade. The woman had short purple hair, a purple outfit, and a whip in her hand. Her dark lipstick made her look like a venomous snake. She licked her whip, looking excited. Just how monstrous is he? The crowd exclaimed in surprise. It's the people from the senior rankings. Yang Jingshan, rank 2, and Feng Meitong, rank 3. That's right. Myron Hughes is Myron Hughes. He doesn't represent our 4th St. Martial Academy. The crowd then started to regain their spirits and cheered. The fighting spirit of the 4th Saint is eternal. Defend the tower. Take down Luke Saint. Their will was firm, but when the 7 Saints Martial Academy's ranking board updated, everyone's face fell. A shocked voice cried out, Luke Saint is already at the top. Floor 28. Our 4th St. Martial Academy has been swept. At the student union of the 5th St. Martial Academy, a screen displayed an image of Luke Saint. The people below sat in silence. Then a voice spoke up. Everyone, a man with a grave expression said, a monstrous prodigy has appeared in the new freshman class of the 7th St. Martial Academy. I'm sure everyone already knows. His name is Luke Saint, this year's enlightened general star of the Eastern region, the top martial prospect. On his first day of school, he beat someone from the senior rankings. After that, a girl next to him interrupted. Jingyu, stop wasting words. Just get to the point. What should we do? Jingyu rubbed his head helplessly. What can I do? Do you think I could do anything? Luke Saint broke the records of 2 towers in half a day. His reputation as a demon king is now set in stone. Suddenly, a panicked voice shouted, "Not good," shocking everyone in the room. Luke Saint. He's here. Luke Saint appeared, handsome and charismatic, surrounded by an aura of power. He asked, "What's wrong?" "Not welcoming me." The others panicked and screamed, "No. Why is this happening?" Luke had just finished clearing a tower and was scratching his head, thinking, broke the 5th martial tower. 2 towers in 2 days. That's a bountiful harvest. Meanwhile, the students of that school had collapsed in despair, tears streaming down their faces. It's over. Our martial tower, no. Luke, however, radiated a powerful aura and thought. Not only did I get the chance to train against the Grandmasters twice, but my spiritual power has also grown extensively, perhaps breaking through to level 6. Under deliberate pressure, even the Path of 10 Perfections has smoothly entered its 2nd form. Path of 10 Perfections, 2nd form. Power condensed, pinpoint explosions, understanding weaknesses, meticulous control. There are even more ways to predict attacks. This feeling of omniscience, omnipotence, and flawless perfection is becoming clearer and clearer. Upon entering the 2nd form of the Path of 10 Perfections, I even have the illusion that I have become a god. Although it's just an illusion, if I continue on this path, perhaps one day I will truly become a god of martial arts. Lindsay had been waiting outside the 5th University Challenge for a long time. Seeing him come out, he waved happily. Saint, over here." As he got closer, the boy's face was beaming with excitement. "Congratulations, Saint, on breaking another tower. So, which martial arts university are we off to next?" Luke replied, "Yeah, it's still early. Call a car for me to go to the 6th Saint University." Lindsay became even more excited and immediately replied, "No problem." Then, he gestured to one side and shouted, "It's all arranged. Look." Luke was stunned by the sight before him. Awaiting him were 2 long lines of dazzling yellow cars. While Luke was still stunned, Lindsay pushed him into one of the cars. The other students also got into the cars and shouted to each other, "Let's go. Saint is out. Let's move. Let's go." The blue-haired student got into the car and said to the driver, "Sir, catch up with that car in front." The driver was surprised and asked, "Oh, student, are you guys from the 7 universities organizing some large-scale event?" His face lit up with anticipation. "We're going to witness the birth of a dynasty, sir." The driver was completely stunned. Meanwhile, the students from the other school panicked as soon as they saw Luke appear, shouting warnings to each other. "He's here! He's here! We see him! It's him!" A powerful footstep descended from a car. It was Luke Saint stepping out of the car, his expression serious, his gaze fixed straight ahead. Luke Saint has arrived. Seeing him and his entourage appear, they shouted again. "Oh my God, this formation! He's really a demon king on an outing. What do we do now? Is Shin Kong here? The number 1 on the old student list. Shin Kong? Shin Kong, step up." At this point, Luke was facing a guy much bigger than him. The guy's name was Shin Kong. Shin Kong asked with an annoyed expression, "Luke Saint, is it?" "That's right. Is there a problem?" Luke replied politely. Hearing this, Shin Kong's face darkened, and he gritted his teeth in anger, hissing, "Is there a problem?" But surprisingly, Shin Kong bowed his head, offered his hand, and said with a fawning smile, "I'm here to show you the way, sir. This way, please, this way. Our school is very large. Be careful not to get lost." The people next to him were stunned. Damn, so Shin Kong is the one leading the way. Scene changed to half an hour later. As usual, shocked voices rang out. He broke it. A new record. The power ranking board displayed the new record. 6 St. Martial University, number 1 Luke Saint, 29 floors. Luke Saint successfully cleared the tower. Shen Kong waved his hand in celebration, cheering, "Congratulations, congratulations!" Lin Zhe was happier than anyone, grinning from ear to ear with excitement. Outside, Shen Kong was cheerfully congratulating him, but inside, his heart was a sea of tears. What could I do? He was going to break it anyway. Besides, we're not the only ones who lost face. This sucks. Subsequently, Luke's record-breaking achievements were displayed one after another. New record at the 6th St. Martial University. Sometime later, a familiar footstep stepped down before a gate, but this place was now empty, not a soul in sight. Luke walked in with Lin Zhe and his followers. Suddenly, a voice from above called out, "So it's you, the Demon King of the Seven, Luke Saint." A powerful flash of light shot down from the tall building, landing with a heavy thud that sent shockwaves through the people nearby. As the smoke cleared, Luke was still standing tall and serious. The voice continued, "Do you know where you are?" Luke replied nonchalantly, "I came here to climb the tower. How could I not know?" A man in a hooded coat drew his sword and said in a long speech, "I am Blaine Cross, second in the Seven Saints ranking." The founder of the 2nd St. Martial University was the earliest martial Dao saint born in this Dragon Kingdom. In terms of both history and foundation, they far surpass what upstart martial academies like yours can compare to. His eyes then blazed with anger, and he stabbed his sword into the ground, shouting, "You want to make a name for yourself, fine, but to step on the 2nd St. Martial University, that is not allowed. First, you have to ask if I agree." From the point where Blaine Cross's sword was planted, a wave of ice and snow spread out. That power was the will of a grandmaster. The wave of ice had now reached Luke's feet, surprising him for a moment. Blaine Cross pulled his sword out and continued, "I hear you're this year's top martial arts prospect. What a coincidence." He stood confidently on the ice he created. "Top martial arts prospect, you say? I've been there, done that." Lin Zhe and his companion saw this and cried out in alarm. "That's a grandmaster's will. That Blaine Cross has condensed a grandmaster's will. Even if it's just a little, it's a martial will that belongs to him. Within 10 years, Blaine Cross will definitely become a grandmaster." Blaine Cross pointed his sword at Luke and said arrogantly, "Now do you understand what the foundation of an old St. Martial University is?" As snowflakes fell around him, the silent Luke finally spoke, "A grandmaster's will, huh?" He brushed the snow off his shoulder and smiled. "At this age, in this era, to have condensed your own grandmaster's will. Not bad." Blaine Cross's eyes flashed with anger. What's with that attitude? A senior praising a junior? He felt insulted. Blaine Cross immediately swung his sword, shouting angrily, "What act are you putting on? In a moment, I'll freeze you solid. Let's see if you can still pretend then." Luke, his feet now frozen in the ice, calmly asked, "This is your ice-type martial will?" Suddenly, his eyes blazed, and a powerful aura of fire erupted from his body. Compared to hers, he said, "It's too weak." The fire from Luke was so intense that the people nearby had to raise their hands to shield themselves from the heat. Even Blaine Cross lost his arrogant demeanor and cried out in alarm. The power from Luke had melted all of his ice. Blaine Cross had to grit his teeth to resist the power, wondering to himself, "What is this? It's so hot, so blinding. It's like the sun." Looking down at his melting ice, he was even more horrified. "My ice domain is being dissolved." After dealing with it, Luke walked past him, not forgetting to mock him. What an unfortunate coincidence. If we were in the same class, you could only be the runner-up. Suddenly, on a nearby roof, several figures had been silently witnessing the scene. There were people in black hooded cloaks. One, with glowing eyes, spoke to have the signs of a martial saint within 5 years of entering the Grandmaster realm. At the student union, a voice spoke up. "How is it?" Kenji, smoking a cigarette, asked worriedly, "Has Luke Saint entered the tower of the 1st St. Martial University yet?" The purple-haired girl opposite him replied, "He's in." Didn't Blaine Cross try to stop him? Kenji asked again. The girl answered, he did. He even used his martial will, but still couldn't stop him. He was shocked. He played his trump card and still couldn't stop him. How many moves did it take for Luke Saint to defeat Blaine Cross? The girl replied with a hint of helplessness. Half a move. Kenji couldn't believe it. Half a move? What does that mean? Luke Saint only revealed a bit of his martial will. He didn't even attack Blaine Cross. The girl's expression was incredibly serious as she recounted. He just melted Blaine Cross's martial will. Kenji was so scared by this news that he fell to the ground. Melted? What kind of scene is it when a martial will is melted? He thought in horror. The girl worriedly reached out her hand and asked, Kenji, should we still try to stop him? Kenji was now trembling uncontrollably. He spoke in a panicked voice from the floor. Stop him how? With what? My strength is actually about the same as Blaine Cross's. He's number 1. I'm number 2. Luke Saint didn't even use half a move to defeat Blaine Cross. If I go there, it's just suicide. Hearing this, the girl cracked her knuckles in anger. Damn it. I originally intended to follow the example of Tan Jong-yu of the St. Martial Academy and smoothly advance to Grandmaster. But, out of nowhere, this Demon King Luke Saint appears. He's been dominating the leaderboards since the start of the game. I'm graduating in a few months. Couldn't he have come a little later? Kenji, looking 10 years older, stared out the window and said resignedly, Forget it. Now, as for Luke Saint, newspapers fell from the tower. People shouted, Look, hot news. Damn, this is for real. Maybe he's the next martial saint of our Dragon Kingdom. In everyone's hands was a newspaper about Luke Saint. Asterisk the strongest newcomer, the last Grandmaster, breaking 7 towers in one day, climbing to the top of the list. It's really that Luke Saint. Asterisk. Suddenly, a scene full of zombies appeared. Gurgle hack. In the night, a faint light emanated from a window. Someone was lying in his own space. He spoke, Nye, display Luke Saint's information. After a moment, he said, I'm curious. Who? Open my life's data. He thought, I wonder if doing this will make me a saint? Social reputation and all that doesn't have much effect. Every day I just eat, sleep, train, and show off. He then scratched his head and denied it. It's not bragging. It's just that the situation forces me to. A second later, he was like a demon king again, looking up at the sky smugly. But they don't understand the satisfaction of easily crushing a strong opponent amidst their extreme jealousy. How exhilarating. He, 9th level martial artist, I finally became a martial saint. An information panel displayed the details of an old man. Name, Luke Saint, gender, male, lifespan, June 297 Martial Dao era, July 383 Martial Dao era, Martial Dao strength, 6th level martial artist. After reading, Luke cheered happily. Although it's still quite far from my goal of the 12th level, let me review my life experiences. Luke Saint, a martial arts prodigy, set a record in the 7 Saint Martial Trials in the ancient Dragon Kingdom's capital, becoming the first Grandmaster. In the same year, he won first place in the Martial Arts Conference, surpassing students from all over the country. He killed a priceless Grandmaster from the Absolute Martial School, making a name for himself throughout the capital. He then asked himself in surprise, Huh? I killed someone at the scene? And I even killed a Grandmaster from the Absolute Martial School? They have a martial saint backing them. Why on earth did I risk offending a martial saint to kill a Grandmaster? Luke broke out in a cold sweat. He then started operating the screen. Forget it. Thinking too much is useless. I'll deal with that later. What's next? At 19, became a disciple of Tan Jong-yu in the martial saint realm, becoming Tan Jong-yu's 3rd disciple. At 32, became a great Grandmaster. An image of a stubbled Luke appeared, wearing stylish clothes, standing above his cheering fans. At 70, became a martial saint, founded the Saint Martial School, and was honored as the perfect martial saint. An old man with white hair and beard stood on a mountain peak, looking down at the city. in the year 457 of the martial Tao era, passed away due to old age and infirmity at the age of 161. Character historical evaluation, 6 stars. Resource Warehouse Authority, level 6. Luke was once again thrilled. Perfect martial saint. Founder of the Saint Martial School. Ha ha, that's a glorious achievement. My lifespan was shorter than my achievement of becoming a great grandmaster. It's probably because my spirit was exhausted. The perfect martial path is truly as difficult as ascending to heaven. I must continue to work hard. Let's see what else there is. Suddenly, Luke's finger froze as the words marital status appeared on the screen. Images of 3 girls, Diana Yang, Dong Qingxue, and Xia Lin, appeared in his mind. He was extremely curious and was about to click on it. Marriage, huh? Then he waved his hand. Forget it, don't look. These things can easily disturb my Tao heart. At the same time, the screen displayed insufficient authority. He thought, oh, insufficient authority? Then let's look into the origin of the dimensional beasts. Instantly, a pile of news articles fell on his head, making Luke exclaim, whoa. Lying amidst the countless pieces of information, he asked in disbelief, I killed that many? It seems a few sentences can't explain it all. I need to look carefully. Let's see the investigation data on the stellar body tempering technique, natural breathing method, and the Grandmaster's crystal visualization technique. After reading through an information panel, he understood. So that's how it is. The 3 major cultivation methods for the immortal golden body. Now, please subscribe to the channel for more information. Right now, I haven't even completed the 2nd stage. But if I could have an unlimited supply of varied dimensional marrow like I did at the Eastern Military District before, the image of a tearful Zhuo Fei hugging the marrow tube and saying, don't come here, left him speechless. Fisk, forget it. Let's look at something else. At this point, another screen appeared with the words, natural breathing method. The content is truly profound. The pursuit of the unity of heaven and man's connection with the universe. Luke's expression was strained. Such abstract concepts. I don't get it. Then he looked down at his hand and continued, for now, the benefits the natural breathing method brings me are rapid recovery, level enhancement, and improved cultivation efficiency. I'll have to spend time researching it later. Next is the visualization technique. Looking at the words on another screen, he said with reverence, this is a Grandmaster level ability to use will projection, using spiritual power to simulate another person's martial will. The idea of a genius, or rather, only a madman would come up with such a technique. Luke began to speculate. Could it be that my position in this dreamscape is also created by will projection? Therefore, I have to slay those zombies in the dreamscape to completely inherit their will. I feel like I'm on the verge of uncovering some truth, but there's still a thick fog that I can't dispel or see through. Forget it. Maybe I'm overthinking it. It's time to go back. He saved the data, then turned to leave. He then disappeared within the space, leaving only a spot of light in the void. Another piece of information fell. Appearing before Nye was the information. Name, Luke Saint, gender, male, lifespan, June 297 Martial Tao era, July 383 Martial Tao era. Nye's eyes glowed. Elsewhere, a projection of a woman appeared, requesting an audience. But it immediately shattered, and Luke cried out in alarm. Feeling a slight pain, he said helplessly, no, I still can't use spiritual power to create a projection. Is it because there's no spiritual power feedback? Or perhaps the crystal visualization technique's method of constructing projections with consciousness is not that simple. As expected, it won't be that easy. Luke sat down, took hold of it, and thought, compared to the Martial Saint Tower, this place is more like a world. A complete world. Apart from the need to eat, drink, and excrete, everything else is as close to the real world as possible. If it's possible. If we compare both to a game, the Martial Saint Tower is too rudimentary and still requires the player to participate in the programming. My Martial Saint Tower, However, this dreamscape is like a masterpiece. It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake. An image of a zombie with its mouth wide open, screaming horribly, appeared. Luke then picked up his spear and said, "Forget it. This isn't something that can be accomplished overnight." He then leaped up. "Tonight's goal is to harvest." Luke shot off at top speed. "Go!" After experiencing multiple trials in the Marshall Saint Tower, the progress of my crystal visualization technique has exceeded expectations. I can feel that my body can now store 3 types of Grandmaster's Will. If there are no further complications with my current strength and rate of progress, a Grandmaster level Marshal will might not even compare. It would have to be a great Grandmaster's Will to stand a chance. Luke's eyes were filled with determination. After all, the current goal is Great Grandmaster. The effect is extraordinary. I've fallen, and my strength must increase a bit more. A moment later, his feet touched down. "Found you. The third will I've set my sights on. It should be you." Before him was a powerfully built man, training by carrying a small mountain on his back. He saw Luke and gave a sinister smile. His eyes lit up, and a puff of foul-smelling smoke escaped from his sparse teeth. At that moment, Luke immediately used the second form of the Path of 10 Perfections, Breath of Fire. He then quickly swung his spear, which was engulfed in the shape of a vicious flaming dragon, and attacked forward. He yelled, "Rise!" A blindingly fast strike shot forward, impossible to see clearly. But upon closer inspection, a hand had reached out and effortlessly caught the powerful spear tip. The giant man was also emitting a powerful force, resisting Luke's strength. The zombie's grotesque face appeared, and it extended its hand. The zombie's face now showed a hint of panic. Half of the zombie's body had vanished, leaving only a deep, swirling hole in the small mountain behind it. Looking at the half of the zombie's body on the ground, emitting a dark aura, Luke exclaimed, "Phew, the effect of stacking 2 buffs is truly impressive." The zombie, now depleted of strength, collapsed to the ground. Luke added, "Extremely strong defense. If he were at 100%, I fear even Grandmaster Tan Zhongyu couldn't break through his defense." He then closed his eyes and concentrated. "Immortal Spirit, let me experience your Grandmaster's martial will." The dark auras then flew up and gathered beside him. A memory of the zombie appeared. A young man was kneeling before an elder who was scolding him. "Rocky Shur, your talent is too poor. You're always one step behind others. You're just not suited for practicing martial arts." The young man called Rocky Shur replied with a determined expression, "Master, then I will work a little harder than others. A little earlier. Is that okay?" The master was slightly taken aback, then sighed. Later, Rocky Shur came before a general, who said, "Sorry, your qualifications and abilities fall far short of the requirements for our Saint Guard team." Rocky Shur replied, "I understand. Then I'll try somewhere else." A moment later, a hand slammed on a table. "What? My son is leaving." A woman who appeared to be Rocky Shur's mother said worriedly, "You've joined the Hunter Squad? Do you know that the Hunter Squad has to go outside the base? Don't you want to live anymore?" His mother repeatedly pounded on his chest. Rocky Shur just laughed and reassured her, "Mom, don't worry. I will definitely survive." Scene changed to the sound of mocking laughter. "Huh, what a fool. Doesn't know his own limits, yet he wants to save others." For the sake of retrieving a few scraps of corpses, he almost lost his life. Rocky Shur was struggling on his knees, holding a device, and pressing a button. The taunt continued. "What an idiot, haha. Maybe next time, he'll be the one dead in the mouth of a dimensional beast." His trembling hand gripped the device. The next scene showed the same men in shock. "What did you say? That fool Rocky Shur advanced to the 6th level? For real? Don't joke with me. He goes out there to face death every day. When he comes back, he trains like a madman. How could he not advance? Speaking of which, so many people have died in the Hunter Squad. They've replaced the members 5 or 6 times. How is that fool Rocky Shur still alive?" Meanwhile, Rocky Shur was still persistently training with 2 dumbbells larger than himself. The gossip from the idle crowd continued. Who knows? Maybe he's just pretending to be dumb. But actually, he's very cunning. Rocky Shur persisted, constantly motivating himself. I want to be stronger, just a little stronger. That way, I can bring back a chance of survival for more people. Scene changed to a hospital corridor with nurses and doctors walking around. The now adult Rocky Shur had brought back a man who was anxiously asking, Doctor, how is it? The doctor cheerfully pulled back the curtain and said, Congratulations, it's a girl. Mother and daughter are both safe and sound. A woman and a baby girl were sleeping peacefully. Rocky Shur was so happy he was moved to tears, unable to speak. He then touched his daughter's tiny hand with one finger and told himself, I want to be even stronger, strong enough to protect you two forever. A larger Rocky Shur sat watching his wife and child in the beautiful sunset. The day the fool Rocky Shur became a grandmaster, he was 72 years old. Martial calendar year 11,024, base number 1359, was attacked by dimensional beasts. Vicious dimensional beasts with mouths full of sharp, broken teeth appeared. Grandmaster Rocky Shur defended gate number 27. At this moment, Rocky Shur pushed a large rock to hold back the dimensional beasts. He was surrounded by countless vicious dimensional beasts, but there was no sign of hesitation on his face. He fought to the death, never retreating. Back in reality, Luke opened his eyes and said, So this is the fool, Rocky Shur? Compared to Tan Zhongyu, perhaps Rocky Shur is the true late bloomer. He was labeled a fool since childhood, yet after 60 years at the peak of the martial artist realm, he was able to step into the Grandmaster realm at the age of 70. Before his death, his strength had reached the threshold of a great Grandmaster. He looked at the stone in his hand and continued his Grandmaster's Tao, and Rocky Shur still had the potential to become a level 9 martial saint. From beginning to end, it was all about protection. In a way, this has also been my path since I obtained the Dreamscape. What I must do is also to protect my family, protect the future of humanity, protect everything precious, Luke said with a satisfied smile.
This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.